Hello and welcome to Bust or Trust, a kids' mystery podcast. I'm Tiernan.
And I'm Athena. Bust or Trust is the podcast where we unravel the world's greatest mysteries with help from you, our chief detectives.
We present all the best evidence and then ask you to decide, which team are you on?
Are you a myth buster like me?
Or are you a myth truster like me? We look into all sorts of strange stories from around the world. No mystery is too big for us. Like, why is the word dictionary in the dictionary? Surely you'd know what it is already before you looked it up.
Oh, maybe it just didn't want to feel left out.
Anyway, we'll tell you at the end of the show just how to get in touch so you can let us know if you're on Team Buster or the best one, Team Truster.
So, chief detectives, get ready to take notes and start putting together your case while we have a quick word with the grown-ups.
The case.
Oh my gosh, Athena!
What happened?
Look, on my knee, I have a mark. That means I might have been abducted by aliens.
I thought you bashed your knee on the desk yesterday because you weren't looking where you were going.
Oh, yeah, that really hurt. But I doubt it was that. It's almost certainly proof that aliens did tests on me.
On your knees?
I have pretty great knees. They are just the right amount of knobbly.
Yeah, I don't think you were abducted by aliens, Tiernan. That just isn't a thing.
It is, just like our case this week of the Pascagoula Alien Abduction, where two men in Mississippi, USA, said they were taken away in a UFO and looked at by aliens.
But many people say the whole thing was a hoax, and I think the chief detectives will too. Pay attention, here's what we know about the Pascagoula Alien Abduction. On the evening of October the 11th, 1973, two men called Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker went to their local police station in Jackson County, Mississippi. They told the officers that they had been fishing in the Pascagoula River when they heard a strange whirring or whizzing sound.
When they looked up, they saw flashing blue lights and an oval-shaped object flying in the sky. The next thing they knew, they were held in what they called a portal and were taken up to the spaceship, awake but unable to move. And then three strange-looking creatures examined them for about 30 minutes, and then they let them go.
The case hit international news, and Hickson and Parker both did a number of big TV interviews about what happened to them. But many critics think it is either a hoax, that the men pretended this was true when it's not, or that the men had simply been mistaken.
So, of course, Chief Detectives, it's up to you to decide. Did aliens experiment on my knee? Or, no, I think that's the only possibility.
No, the question is, did the Pascagoula abduction really happen or not?
I suppose I'd better beam down piece of evidence number one.
First piece of evidence.
The first piece of evidence is that both the men gave the same accounts of what had happened to them, even when interviewed by police officers separately, and again under a lie detector test. They both described the sound the UFOs made as like a zipping noise. They both said the aliens were grey and just over 5 feet tall, with no neck and strange slits for eyes and a mouth. They had very pointed nose and ears, clawed hands, and their legs were joined together so that they glided everywhere. They both said they were taken into the UFO and tested and experimented on, and then once they were let go, they sat in a car to regain their composure and went straight to the sheriff to report what had happened.
Just because they had the same story doesn't make it evidence. The two of them may well have discussed what they were going to say before seeing the sheriff and convinced themselves of what happened.
But the Jackson County Sheriff told the Washington Post in 1975 that we did everything we knew to try and break their stories. If they were lying to me, they should be in Hollywood. And even after taking lie detector tests, stress tests on their voices, and being asked questions while they were in a special sleep, they still told the same stories. J. Allen Hynek of the Center for UFO Studies interviewed both Hickson and Parker, and he was convinced that they experienced an extraterrestrial phenomena.
That is amazing that they were unbreakable in telling their stories, but they might still not have been abducted by aliens and were also not lying when they said they were. Lie detector tests are very unreliable, and voice stress tests are often so wrong they now aren't allowed for use in legal cases. And while I'm certain that someone who worked at the Centre for UFO Studies would be biased in thinking that the two men had seen aliens, J. Allen Hynek also said that if Parker and Hickson hadn't seen aliens, then they had, at least, had a very real, frightening experience. Which is probably very true. And when people are frightened, they can see or imagine all sorts of things. But actually, what some people believe happened is that Hickson fell asleep and entered what is known as a hypnagogic state, which is a condition some people have in the moment between being awake and falling asleep. During that time, you can feel like you're unable to move, and you can also have hallucinations and see things that aren't there. So it's very possible that this dreamlike state made Charles Hickson imagine he saw aliens.
That's Hickson. But what about Parker?
Well, he admitted to police that he passed out asleep before Hickson, so didn't really remember anything. In fact, they were recorded on a security tape in the sheriff's office while no one else was in the room. And reports say the recordings didn't sound like they were planning a hoax, but more like they were comparing notes to check they had the same story. And strangely, Hickson kept adding to his story as time went on. For example, a month after the event, he said in an interview that the lights on the UFO had been so bright they had caused an eye injury that lasted for 3 days. Except that didn't show up at all on his medical examination at the time. It's natural for our brain to change memories as time goes on, but that also doesn't mean what he remembers is actually what happened.
I do remember that we've looked at cases before where people convinced themselves something happened that didn't. So it is possible. But then if they weren't abducted by aliens, piece of evidence number 2 really is out of this world.
Second piece of evidence.
The second piece of evidence, and warning to any chief detectives that are a bit squeamish about needles, is that both men had marks and injuries as though they'd been examined and tested, like they said they had. Both had small holes on different parts of their body, usually in a row of 3, as though they'd been pierced by a needle. And random parts of their epidermis, which is the very top layer of your skin, had been removed in little circles. Not only are there photos of these marks, but they're also all written up in a report by a Dr. James Harder, who examined both men after they spoke to the police. This report also says they were clearly in a state of shock, and there were no other marks or rashes to suggest that they'd been in an accident or been injured in any other commonly known way.
Okay, that is weird. There is some suggestion that because the two men were examined 72 hours after they spoke to the sheriff, that they could have given themselves these marks. But they would have needed special medical equipment to do it, and some of the needle holes are in an odd place, like on the bottom of their feet. Charles Hickson was a retired dock worker, and Calvin Parker worked in construction. So, I'm not sure either of them would have had medical equipment or the right training to use it. I have to say, this one's a bit tricky, even for Team Buster.
Aha! Well, wait till you hear the final piece of evidence.
Third piece of evidence.
OK, get this, Athena and Chief Detectives. The final piece of evidence is there are other people who saw the same UFO that Parker and Hickson did. Meet Marie and Jerry Blair of Theodore, Alabama. They were sitting in their car on the opposite side of the Pascagoula River when they spotted something strange. Marie said, "I was looking at the sky and I noticed a blue light in the sky over where they were fishing. It started moving and it seemed like it was following along the Pascagoula River. I just saw the lights on it. It was just going back and forth. Sometimes it would just sit there. It went on for 20 to 25 minutes. Marie said she realised it wasn't a plane when it hovered and moved back and forth. Jerry said he thought it was a helicopter, so didn't pay much attention to it, watching as it landed on the other side. After they left their car and walked to the nearby pier, they heard a loud splash in the river. They thought they saw a person, but said it didn't look quite right, more like a dolphin. It went back underwater and vanished. Another woman, Judy Branning, was in a car with her 4 friends just a mile away from where Hickson and Parker were fishing. They stopped at a red light and suddenly saw some lights in the sky. They were very bright, but the aircraft made no noise, and when it hovered over their car, the radio went very strange and changed all the stations. Then the aircraft flew away at a very fast speed. So they must also have seen the UFO that landed by Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker.
More witnesses do help prove that this incident may have happened. But it is funny that not one of these people said they had seen a UFO on the same night as Hickson and Parker were abducted. until after a book about it came out in 2018. Earlier, we talked about how memories can change. Judy Brannon, Marie, and Jerry Blair might remember things differently now that they know they could be interviewed about their experiences by the news.
I don't know, Athena. This seems like a solid Team Truster win to me.
I don't think so. There are still so many unanswered questions about this very strange case.
Yes, there are. One of which is, why on earth would aliens want to do experiments on humans anyway?
We have captured the subject.
Oh, hello, aliens. How exciting. I like your shade of bright green.
Let us commence testing.
Testing! Amazing! I love tests. I bet I'll score highly. Whatever you do, though,
Robot arm initiated.
don't press me round the stomach region. You will regret it.
Prod the human around what might be the stomach.
Oh, no, not there. Uh-oh, you asked for it.
What was that? The human creature has a natural defense mechanism. For our safety, we must avoid that area of their body.
Ah, that feels better.
Commence pushing its knees towards its stomach region.
Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
That smell, it makes all 12 of my eyes weep in sadness. My nose is offended and I don't even have one.
Sorry, I had a curry yesterday and I just can't help it.
Try twisting the human around.
Oh, that feels great. So relaxing.
Oh no, what is that horrible, horrible green fog? That toxicity meter has blown. Evacuate the ship. Evacuate, evacuate. Run for your lives.
Oh, I feel amazing. I think I'll be coming back here again. Thanks so much, you two. What were your names again? Hello? Hello?
That was not a nice experiment.
I dunno. I thought it seemed like a gas.
Oof. You know what doesn't stink? Our chief detectives and their amazing case-cracking skills. It's now up to you to decide. Did Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker really get abducted by aliens or just fall asleep whilst fishing?
Time to recap the evidence.
Evidence recap.
The first piece of evidence is that the two men who reported they'd been abducted by aliens, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, both gave the same details about what had happened. Even after a number of tests, they still insisted they were telling the truth.
But Calvin Parker did say he fell asleep before it all happened, and Charles Hickson could have fallen into a hypnagogic state. That's when you are in between being awake and falling asleep. It can make it feel like your body is unable to move, and you are also very likely to hear or see strange things.
The second piece of evidence is that both men had marks that looked like they were made by needles or medical equipment, just like they described had happened to them.
But the medical examination that they had took place 3 days after the event, so Hickson and Parker could have caused those injuries to themselves.
The final piece of evidence is the other witnesses who saw the same UFO Hickson and Parker did on that very night. 2 from a car on the opposite side of the river and 1 in a car just a mile away, and when it flew over, their radio went all funny.
But none of these witnesses told their story until after a book about the Pascagoula incident came out in 2018. There's every chance they have since made false memories about what they actually saw.
So now we're handing it over to you, Chief Detectives.
What do you think? Are you a Pascagoula Alien Abduction mythbuster?
Or a Pascagoula Alien Abduction myth truster? Get in touch and let us know your thoughts. And most importantly, which side you're on. I think being anywhere other than Team Truster is an alien concept.
I think you'll find Team Truster is an empty space when all the chief detectives come to Team Buster on this one. Send us your voice notes with an explanation of why you're a myth truster or mythbuster when it comes to whether Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker really were abducted by aliens by the Pascagoula River in 1973, or it was all just a very bad dream.
All you have to do is ask your grown-ups to help you email us your voice notes or thoughts to hello@bustortrust.com.
Tell us your name, age, what you think all the evidence means, and please make sure your grown-ups give us permission to use your voice notes or emails in our next episode.
You can also send us a question on Spotify Q&A, but please get permission from your parents and don't include any personal details so that we can publish them safely. We won't always be able to use all of them.
But we do love to hear them, and here are some thoughts from you lot, our chief detectives, on the last few episodes.
So my name's Oscar, and I am 6 years old, and I'm Team Buster on if Shufu got to Japan, because it only takes 10 years to sail to Japan 10 days to sail to Japan from China, and the story says it took 1,000 years.
That is someone who got out a map, looked at the nautical miles between Japan and China and measured it, and probably looked at how fast the boat can travel and worked it all out to understand it takes 10 days to travel from China to Japan. That is a fantastic work from a Team Buster member.
Well, I agree, Athena, and Oscar has clearly done some brilliant research. But I have to say, Oscar, you said it only takes 10 days to sail from China to Japan, and Shufu said it took 1,000 days? Well, I mean, that's how long it would take me, because I am rubbish at sailing. So maybe Shufu is just a rubbish sailor like me.
Oscar Rules has commented on our Spotify Q&A on the Wendigo episode. Bust Tiernan should change to Bust. What good advice. Come on over to Team Buster.
Absolutely not. Preppy Slay Queen has given us a nice review on our Apple Podcast page with lots and lots of faces with starry eyes and little party hats saying, love it. The only reason it's 3 stars is because I've only listened to one podcast. Well, thank you, Preppy Slay Queen, but listen to more episodes and give us 5. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. And I Love the Weekday Ass says, I love it so much. I listen to it every night. That's nice. Every night you fall asleep to mysteries. I hope we don't give you bad dreams. I hope we give you good Buster dreams.
Maya has got in touch with us on our episode about the Monkey Man of New Delhi. And she says, hi, my name is Maya. I love Bust or Trust and Radio Nonsense, the best podcasts ever. Oh, thank you, Maya. Not only do you listen to Bust or Trust, the best podcast, but also my other very silly podcast, Radio Nonsense, which you can find Athena on sometimes as well. So thank you for listening to our very serious mystery podcast and the not so serious silly Radio Nonsense. Faye has written in about our crossover episode with the brilliant Koala Moon podcast. And Faye says, this is the second time I've listened to this because I watched it on the Koala Moon profile and now I'm watching it on here. I think it's really good. Thank you so much for this episode. Oh, you are very welcome, Faye. And we had so much fun working with the Koala Moon team to bring you that very special episode. So I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Always brilliant. We make a fantastic team.
Brilliant work, Chief Detectives. And if you enjoyed the show, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more great episodes. We love to hear what you think, so please do rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps more detectives find, bust or trust. And of course, we'll read out some of the comments on our show.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for more Bust or Trust.
Athena! I've got more evidence that the aliens have definitely been here.
Oh yeah? Go on then.
Well, they've beamed the biscuits away. Probably for testing or something, but I bet we'll never get them back.
Why have you got crumbs all around your mouth, Tiernan?
Gotta go. Bye! It was definitely the aliens!